The council chamber stretched vast and empty, like a cathedral built for giants. Hundreds of seats rose in circular tiers, each one filled with an alien representative from across the galaxy. Some had scales that glittered under the lights. Others had fur or feathers or skin that shifted colors with their emotions. A few existed as clouds of gas contained in transparent suits. They all turned their attention to the single human standing in the center of the chamber floor. Ambassador Jiwan Li stood alone. Her dark suit looked simple compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the council members. She kept her hands clasped behind her back and her expression calm. She had delivered humanity's response to the council's demands. Now she waited for their reaction. High Chancellor Vorn rose from the tallest seat. His reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile, though it showed too many teeth to be friendly. His scales caught the light as he spread his arms wide, addressing the entire assembly. "The human refuses our generous offer," Vorn announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We offered humanity a place among the civilized species. We asked only that they abandon their illegal colonies and accept council guidance. Instead, they demand to be treated as equals." Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens. Some sounded amused. Others seemed outraged. Lee noticed that a few remained silent, watching her with careful attention. "Those worlds were uninhabited when we arrived," Lee said. Her voice carried clearly despite speaking at normal volume. The chamber's acoustics had been designed to amplify every word spoken from the floor. "We violated no treaties because humanity had signed no treaties. We claimed no territory belonging to other species. We simply settled empty worlds and built homes for our people." "The council claimed those worlds first," Vorn replied. "Thousands of years before your species even discovered fire. Those worlds fall under council jurisdiction by ancient right." "Ancient right?" Lee allowed a small smile to cross her face. "You claimed them but never settled them. Never visited them. Never built anything on them. For thousands of years those worlds sat empty, while you debated which species would eventually colonize them. Humanity doesn't recognize claims without presence." The chamber erupted in angry chittering, roaring, and whistling. Vorn raised one clawed hand for silence. The noise gradually faded. "You speak boldly for such a young species," Vorn said. "Humanity emerged from your home world less than 2 centuries ago. The Council has maintained order in this galaxy for 50,000 years. You are children playing at being adults. We will not debate this further." He gestured, and a holographic display materialized above the chamber floor. It showed star maps with hundreds of worlds marked in blue. Other worlds glowed red. Lee recognized the red ones as human colonies. "Humanity has 10 days to evacuate these worlds," Vorn continued. "Your people may return to your home system and remain there under council supervision. You will be granted limited trade rights and technology transfers to help you develop properly. In time, perhaps your descendants will be ready to join galactic society." "And if we refuse?" Lee asked. "Then we will remove you by force." Vorn gestured again, and the hologram changed. Now it showed sleek warships arranged in formation. Thousands of them. The display zoomed out, revealing more and more vessels until the count reached 10,000. "This is a fraction of the council fleet," Vorn said. "Our military strength is absolute. Our technology is proven over millennia of peacekeeping operations. Your species possesses what? 12 warships? Primitive vessels cobbled together from salvaged technology and your own crude innovations?" Laughter rolled through the chamber. Lee waited for it to fade. She had expected this reaction. Humanity had been careful about what information they shared regarding their military capabilities. Let the council believe what they wanted. Sometimes ignorance served a purpose. Admiral Thesic rose from his seat near Vorn. His insectoid features clicked and shifted as he spoke. "I have reviewed your military specifications, Ambassador. Your ships are inefficient. You waste resources on redundant systems and excessive armor. You prioritize individual vessel capability over fleet coordination. These are the mistakes of an inexperienced species that has never faced real military opposition." "We faced opposition," Lee said quietly. "We faced ourselves." The chamber fell silent. Several council members leaned forward in their seats. "Humanity spent centuries fighting wars among our own nations," Lee continued. "We built weapons specifically designed to destroy other humans. We developed tactics to counter human strategies. We learned to fight in environments that would kill most species in this chamber within minutes. We survived because we became very, very good at warfare. Not against aliens. Against each other." "Ancient history," Vorn dismissed. You unified your species 200 years ago. You have grown soft with peace. The Council has maintained military readiness across 50,000 years. We know war. You merely remember it. Then you should understand what I'm about to tell you, Lee said. Humanity will not abandon our colonies. We will not submit to Council governance. We will not retreat to our home system and wait for you to decide when we're civilized enough for your approval. We have the right to exist as free people, and we will defend that right. Vorn's smile widened, showing even more teeth. With 12 ships? If necessary. The High Chancellor looked around the chamber, making sure all the other Council members saw his amusement. Very well. The Council will vote on military action. All in favor of forcibly removing humanity from contested territory? Hundreds of hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages rose. Lee counted perhaps a dozen who abstained. Not a single vote against. The decision had been made before she even entered the chamber. This had all been theater, a formal process to justify what the Council intended to do anyway. The motion passes unanimously, Vorn declared. Ambassador Lee, you have 10 days to evacuate your colonies. After that, the Council fleet will remove any humans remaining in contested space. You are dismissed. Lee bowed slightly, more out of habit than respect. She turned and walked toward the chamber exit. The massive doors opened before her, revealing the corridor beyond. She heard the Council members already discussing fleet deployments and expected surrender times. They assumed this would be simple. A show of force, perhaps a few warning shots, and humanity would back down. Young species always did when faced with overwhelming power. Ambassador, Lee stopped. Counselor Miran approached from a side entrance. The avian diplomat's feathers ruffled with what Lee had learned to recognize as concern. You should have accepted the offer, Miran said softly. The Council is serious. They will not show mercy to a species that defies their authority. I have seen this before. Younger races always believe they can resist. They cannot. Thank you for the warning, Lee replied. But humanity didn't survive this long by backing down from threats. We learned to face our fears. Sometimes we lost. Sometimes we won. But we always fought. You will lose more than you can imagine. Perhaps. Lee smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. Or perhaps the Council will learn something about humanity that your intelligence reports failed to mention. Tell me, Counselor, where is the Council planning to begin their enforcement action? Miran hesitated, then spoke. New Horizon. Your largest colony. The fleet will arrive in 5 days to begin evacuation procedures. They expect full compliance within hours of arrival. New Horizon, Lee repeated. That's convenient. One of our 12 warships is stationed there. The Indomitable. Perhaps your fleet should meet her crew. It might be educational. One ship cannot stand against 300, you're probably right, Lee agreed. But then again, the Council has never fought humans before. You don't know what we're capable of when cornered. You don't know what we learned during our centuries of warfare. You don't know what 12 truly means to humanity. She walked away, leaving Miran standing in the corridor. The Counselor watched her go, feeling something she hadn't experienced in decades of diplomatic service. Doubt. The human ambassador hadn't spoken with bravado or false confidence. She had spoken with certainty, as if she knew something the Council didn't. Miran returned to the chamber, where the other Council members were already celebrating their easy victory. She said nothing, but she made a note to watch the reports from New Horizon very carefully. Something told her this confrontation would not proceed as the Council expected. Space tore open like fabric being ripped apart. 300 Council warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of New Horizon's sun. The fleet spread across thousands of kilometers in a carefully planned pattern. Each ship knew its position, its role, its target. Admiral Thesic watched from the command bridge of the flagship, his compound eyes tracking every vessel on the tactical display. Status report, he ordered. All ships in position. Admiral, his tactical officer replied. Scanners are sweeping the area. We have located the human colony on the planet below, population approximately 2 million. No defensive satellites detected, no orbital weapons platforms, and their warship. The tactical officer gestured at the display. A single red dot appeared, hanging in high orbit above the colony. One vessel detected. Configuration matches their battleship class. Designation Indomitable according to our intelligence reports. No escorts. No support craft. Thesic clicked his mandibles together in what passed for laughter among his species. They sent one ship to defend 2 million colonists. Either humanity is more foolish than we believed or more desperate. He studied the human vessel on the screen. It looked crude compared to Council designs. The hull showed heavy plating rather than elegant energy shielding. Weapon ports dotted its surface in seemingly random patterns. The engines glowed with a harsh blue light instead of the soft green of Council propulsion systems. Everything about it screamed primitive technology, barely functional designs, a species still learning basic spaceflight principles. "Open a channel to the human ship," Thesic commanded. "Channel open. Admiral." Thesic spoke clearly, making sure his words would be recorded and transmitted to the Council. "Human vessel Indomitable. This is Admiral Thesic of the Galactic Council Fleet. You are ordered to stand down and prepare for inspection. The colony below has been deemed illegal under Council law. All human inhabitants have 6 hours to gather their possessions and board transport ships. Failure to comply will result in forcible removal." Silence answered him. The human ship remained motionless in its orbit, neither approaching nor retreating. Long seconds passed. Thesic was about to repeat his message when the communication system activated. "This is Captain Daewon Kim of the Battleship Indomitable." The human's voice came through calm and measured. "We received your message, Admiral. We decline your order. New Horizon is a sovereign human colony established on an uninhabited world. We recognize no Council authority over our territory. I suggest you withdraw your fleet and avoid unnecessary conflict." Laughter erupted across the Council flagship's bridge. Several officers had to steady themselves against their consoles. Thesic raised one claw for silence, though his mandibles twitched with amusement. "Captain Kim," Thesic said, "perhaps you failed to count correctly. I have 300 warships under my command. You have one. The outcome of any confrontation is mathematically certain. Withdraw your vessel and escort the colony transports back to human space. That way no one needs to die today." "I counted your ships, Admiral. All 300 of them. I also counted the weapon systems, shield generators, and engine configurations. I ran the numbers through our tactical computers. The math is very clear. Then you understand the situation." "I do. You brought exactly 300 ships too few." The laughter on the bridge stopped. Thesic's amusement faded into something colder. This human was either insane or suicidal. Neither option changed the tactical reality. The Council had overwhelming superiority. This would end with the human ship destroyed or surrendered. Nothing else made sense. "You have 6 hours, Captain," Thesic said. "After that, my fleet will begin enforcement operations. I strongly advise cooperation. Council weapons are extremely effective. We would prefer not to demonstrate that effectiveness on your ship." "Noted," Kim replied. "Indomitable out," the channel closed. Thesic turned to his tactical officer. "What is the human ship doing?" "Nothing, Admiral. It remains in its previous orbit. No change in power output. No weapons charging. No communications with the colony below. Keep monitoring. The moment they power up weapons or begin moving, I want to know." Thesic settled into his command chair and watched the timer count down. He had conducted dozens of these operations over his long career. Sometimes the target species fought back initially, testing Council resolve. They always surrendered once they saw the futility of resistance. The humans would be no different. 6 hours would pass, the evacuation deadline would expire, and Captain Kim would suddenly become very cooperative when faced with actual military action. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Daewon Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the Council fleet through the main viewport. Commander Bora Choi stood at the tactical station, her fingers moving across holographic controls as she analyzed enemy positions. "They're maintaining a standard blockade formation," Choi reported. 50 ships in the forward screen, 100 spread across the middle layer, 150 in reserve at the rear. Their flagship is positioned center back, protected by the heaviest concentration of vessels. "Weapons?" Kim asked. "Energy-based primarily. Particle beams and plasma cannons. Their missiles are slower than ours but carry larger warheads. Shield strength is adequate but not impressive. Their armor is light, designed for deflection rather than absorption." Lieutenant Hanayun looked up from the weapons console. "Captain, I can target 43 ships simultaneously with our railguns. The kinetic impactors are ready. Point defense systems are active. All missile tubes are loaded. Hold position," Kim ordered. "Let them think we're frightened." Engineer Taeyang Park's voice came through the internal comm system. "Captain, all systems are running at optimal efficiency. Power reserves at maximum. The jump drive is charged if we need to leave quickly. The reactive armor is primed. We're ready for whatever they throw at us. Good work, Taeyang. Keep everything hot. This won't last long once it starts. Kim walked to the tactical display and studied the enemy formation. He had fought in simulations against odds this bad before. Every human officer trained extensively in impossible scenarios, learning to maximize damage even in losing situations. But this wasn't a simulation, and the odds weren't quite as bad as Admiral Thesick believed. The Council had numbers. They had experience maintaining peace among cooperative species. What they didn't have was experience fighting enemies who refused to cooperate. They didn't understand that humanity built its warships with a specific philosophy in mind. Every system had backups. Every weapon could operate independently. Every crew member trained for worst-case scenarios. The Indomitable wasn't designed to fight alongside a fleet. It was designed to fight alone, survive alone, and win alone. How much time left? Kim asked. 5 hours and 43 minutes, Choi answered. Wake me when we hit 30 minutes. I'll be in my quarters reviewing the tactical data. Choi turned to look at him. You're going to rest? No. Kim smiled slightly. Commander, in 30 minutes we're going to be very busy for a very long time. I suggest the rest of you rotate through breaks as well. Eat something. Check your gear. Use the bathroom. Do whatever you need to do, because once this starts, we don't stop until it's finished. He left the bridge. The crew watched him go, then looked at each other. Yoon spoke first. The captain seems very calm for someone about to fight 300 warships. He's always calm, Choi replied. That's why he's the captain. Now take his advice. Rotation break starting now. You first, Yoon, get some food. You're going to need steady hands. The hours crawled past. The Council fleet maintained its position, waiting patiently for humanity to see reason. The colonists below went about their daily routines, trusting their military to handle the situation. And the Indomitable hung silently in space, gathering its strength like a predator before the strike. When the timer reached 30 minutes, Kim returned to the bridge. He looked refreshed, alert, ready. Choi stood and offered him the command chair. He took it and studied the displays. Any changes in their formation? He asked. None. They're very confident. 10 ships have moved slightly forward, probably preparing to fire warning shots when the deadline expires. Warning shots, Kim repeated. They still think this is about intimidation. What do you want us to do, Captain? Yoon asked from the weapon station. Kim watched the timer count down. 20 minutes. 15. 10. The Council ships began moving into firing positions, elegant and graceful, following patterns established over thousands of years of peacekeeping. They had done this so many times before. Show force, demand compliance, receive surrender. Simple, effective, proven. 5 minutes remaining. The forward Council ships charged their weapons. Energy signatures bloomed on the Indomitable sensors. They would fire exactly on schedule, precise and professional, putting a few spectacular but harmless shots across the human ship's bow. Then they would wait for Captain Kim to acknowledge reality and withdraw. The timer reached 0. 10 Council ships fired simultaneously, their particle beams converging on point several kilometers from the Indomitable's position. The beams lit up space with brilliant colors, a display of power designed to impress and intimidate. The shots passed harmlessly by the human battleship. The Indomitable moved. It didn't accelerate the way Council ships did, building speed gradually over several seconds. It simply went from stationary to combat velocity instantly, as if reality had blinked and repositioned the battleship several thousand kilometers forward. The acceleration should have crushed the crew into paste. Instead, the ship crossed half the distance to the forward Council squadron in the time it took Admiral Thesick to process what he was seeing. Evasive action, someone screamed on the Council command channel, too late. The Indomitable's railguns fired. No energy weapons that gave warning with charging cycles. No missiles that could be tracked and intercepted. Just solid metal slugs accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, crossing space faster than the Council sensors could register the launch. The first Council ship died before its crew knew they were under attack. The kinetic round punched through its forward shield, through its hull, through its reactor core, and out the other side. The ship exploded in a brief flash of light and heat, becoming debris in less than a second. 4 more ships followed in the next 3 seconds. The Indomitable fired with mechanical precision, each shot targeted at a different vessel, each impact perfectly placed to cause catastrophic damage. Metal pierced shields that were designed to deflect energy weapons but had no defense against solid matter, moving at such impossible speeds. "Return fire," Thesic ordered. His mandibles clicked frantically as he tried to understand what was happening. "All forward ships target that vessel." The remaining ships of the forward squadron scattered, abandoning their formation in panic. Energy beams and plasma bolts converged on where the Indomitable had been. The human ship was no longer there. It had moved again, that impossible acceleration carrying it to a new position. More railgun rounds streaked out. 3 more council ships exploded. 2 others took crippling hits to their engine sections and began tumbling out of control. On the Indomitable's bridge, Lieutenant Hana Yoon worked her weapons console with calm efficiency. She didn't need to aim manually. The targeting computer tracked every council vessel simultaneously, calculating trajectories and impact points faster than any biological mind could follow. She simply selected targets and fired, trusting the system to handle the details. 10 hostiles neutralized, she reported. Forward squadron is breaking formation. Middle layer ships are moving to intercept. Rear layer is holding position. "Engineering status?" Captain Kim asked. His voice remained level despite the chaos surrounding them. "All systems nominal," Park replied through the comm. "Inertial dampeners holding at 98% efficiency. Power consumption is high but sustainable. Railguns are cycling normally. We can maintain this pace indefinitely." Commander Choi studied the tactical display. "They're trying to box us in. 100 ships converging from multiple vectors. They're learning. Show them we learn faster," Kim said. "Deploy countermeasures." The Indomitable released clouds of metallic chaff, each particle coated with materials that reflected sensor waves and absorbed energy weapon fire. The chaff spread in expanding spheres, creating zones of confusion where the council scanners saw everything and nothing simultaneously. Ships vanished from sensors, reappeared in wrong positions, multiplied into phantom targets. The carefully coordinated council attack lost its coordination as ships hesitated, unsure which targets were real. The Indomitable used that hesitation. It accelerated again, moving through the chaff clouds like they weren't there. Its own sensors used different wavelengths, seeing clearly where the council ships were blind. More railgun rounds fired. More council vessels exploded or took crippling damage. The debris field grew, adding to the confusion. "They're firing blind," a council officer reported to Thesic. "Our sensors can't penetrate whatever they deployed." Recommends pulling back to regroup. "Negative," Thesic snapped. "We have overwhelming numbers. Saturate the area with fire. They can't dodge everything." 100 council ships opened fire at once, filling space with energy beams and plasma bolts. The barrage was spectacular, lighting up the darkness with enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Surely nothing could survive that much concentrated fire. The council officers watched their displays, waiting for confirmation that the human ship had been destroyed. The Indomitable emerged from the fire unscathed. Its shields had absorbed what little energy reached it. Most of the council shots had missed entirely, their targeting thrown off by the chaff and debris. The few hits that landed had splashed harmlessly against armor, designed to withstand much worse than energy weapons. Humanity had tested their warships against nuclear weapons, kinetic strikes and experimental weapon systems that had never been deployed in actual combat. Council military technology, refined over millennia against cooperative targets, simply wasn't destructive enough. "Damage report," Kim requested. "Shields at 86%, Choi said. "Hull integrity at 100%. Minor scoring on sections 3 and 7. No structural damage." "We're fine, Captain." Kim allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had built these ships to survive the worst they could imagine. The Council's best weapons weren't even close. "Lieutenant Yoon, how many hostile vessels have we neutralized?" 27 destroyed, 15 crippled, Yoon reported. "Enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down. They're pulling back to defensive positions. Open a channel to their flagship." "Channel open, Captain." "Admiral Thesic," Kim said. "This is your opportunity to withdraw. You came here expecting an easy mission. A show of force, a quick surrender, another peaceful resolution. That's not what this is. We've destroyed or crippled 42 of your ships in less than 10 minutes. We've taken no significant damage. This fight is extremely one-sided, but not in the direction you anticipated." On the Council flagship, Thesic stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 42 ships gone, just gone. His perfect formation had shattered like glass against stone. The human vessel moved across his screens like nothing he'd ever seen, accelerating and maneuvering in ways that violated every principle of physics he understood. Its weapons fired with pinpoint accuracy, despite the chaos of battle. Its shields absorbed punishment that should have destroyed it several times over. "How is this possible?" he whispered. High Chancellor Vorn's image appeared on the command screen, transmitted from the Council homeworld light years away. "Admiral, report. Why are you withdrawing your forward elements? Why have so many ships gone offline?" Thesic couldn't find words. How could he explain? How could he tell the Council that everything they believed about human military capability was wrong? That one ship had gutted his squadron? That centuries of military doctrine had proven useless against an enemy that fought with such brutal efficiency? The humans, Thesic finally managed. Their technology. It's not primitive. It's not crude. They've been hiding what they can do. That ship, High Chancellor, that ship is beyond anything in our fleet. Its weapons penetrate our shields. Its own shields absorb our fire. It accelerates at speeds that should kill the crew. It targets multiple vessels simultaneously with perfect accuracy. We need reinforcements. You have 300 ships, Vorn roared. You face one. This is unacceptable. High Chancellor, with respect, we need to reconsider our approach. This human captain is offering terms. Perhaps we should... Terms? The Council does not negotiate with rebellious species. You will complete your mission, Admiral. You will remove those colonists and destroy that ship. Use whatever force is necessary. Do not contact me again until you have succeeded. The connection terminated. Thesic looked at his tactical officer. The insectoid's antenna drooped. Admiral, if we press the attack with all remaining ships, we might overwhelm them through sheer numbers. But losses will be catastrophic. How catastrophic? 30% minimum. Possibly 50%. Possibly more. Thesic thought about those numbers. Losing half the fleet to destroy one enemy vessel. The Council would see it as acceptable. They would call it a lesson to other species about the cost of defiance. They wouldn't care about the crews who died, the families who lost loved ones, the years required to rebuild. They only cared about maintaining their authority. But Thesic had seen what that one human ship could do. He had watched it dismantle trained crews operating proven technology. He had watched it fight with a precision and brutality that spoke to centuries of hard-won experience. The humans had claimed they mastered warfare through fighting each other. He believed them now. "Prepare all ships for coordinated assault," he ordered. "We attack with everything simultaneously. No more testing, no more probing. We commit fully." "Yes, Admiral." Thesic opened a channel to the Indomitable. Captain Kim's face appeared on screen, calm and patient. "You've made your point, Captain," Thesic said. "Your ship is formidable. But I have 258 vessels remaining. You cannot destroy them all before one gets through. This ends with your ship reduced to atoms. Withdraw now. Live to fight another day." Kim studied the Admiral for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Admiral, you're absolutely right. I can't destroy all your ships, but I don't need to. I just need to show you something." "Show me what?" "That we are not alone." 11 hyperspace windows tore open simultaneously. The effect was dramatic, reality splitting along precise mathematical lines that spoke to careful calculation and perfect timing. Admiral Thesic watched in growing horror as warship after warship emerged from those glowing rifts. Each one matched the Indomitable's configuration exactly. Each one took position in a practiced formation that surrounded the Council fleet. Each one waited silently, weapons charged, shields active, ready. "How many?" Thesic whispered. His tactical officer's voice shook. 11 additional vessels, Admiral. 12 human warships total, all matching the capabilities we observed from the first one. They're positioned at optimal firing solutions. We're surrounded." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of systems and the occasional beep from consoles. Every officer stared at the tactical display, watching those 12 red dots arrange themselves in a formation that turned the Council's numerical advantage into a death trap. The humans had positioned their ships perfectly. No matter which direction the Council fleet moved, they would expose their flanks to multiple human vessels. No matter how they maneuvered, they were already in range of those devastating kinetic weapons. "Contact High Chancellor Vorn," Thesic ordered. Immediately. While the communication connected, Thesic studied the human ships. Intelligence reports had claimed humanity possessed 12 warships total. The Council had dismissed them as insignificant. 12 vessels couldn't project power across interstellar distances. 12 ships couldn't defend multiple colonies. 12 warships were barely enough to patrol a single system, let alone challenge an empire of 10,000 worlds. Except the Council had been thinking about it wrong. Humanity hadn't spread their military strength thin across their territory. They had concentrated it into these 12 platforms. Each ship represented not just a warship, but an entire military philosophy compressed into a single devastating package. The Council built thousands of adequate ships. Humanity built 12 perfect ones. High Chancellor Vorn appeared on screen, his scaled features twisted in anger. "Admiral, explain why I'm seeing reports that more human ships have arrived. Your intelligence briefings claimed they only had one vessel at New Horizon." "The intelligence was correct, High Chancellor. They did have one ship here. Now they have 12. All 12 of humanity's warships are present. They were hiding somewhere close waiting for us to commit our forces. Then destroy them. You still have numerical superiority. High Chancellor, we've already lost 42 ships to one human vessel. According to our tactical analysis, if we engage all 12, we'll lose at least half our fleet, possibly more. These ships are far more advanced than we believed. Their weapons penetrate our defenses. Their shields withstand our attacks. Their crews operate with precision we cannot match." Vorn leaned forward. "You're telling me that 12 ships can defeat 300? I'm telling you that attempting to destroy these 12 ships will cost us more than we can afford. Even if we succeed, the victory will be Pyrrhic. We'll lose too many vessels to maintain security in other sectors. And High Chancellor, we won't succeed. These humans know how to fight. They've been preparing for this confrontation since before they left their home system." Before Vorn could respond, another image appeared on screen. Councillor Miraan spoke quickly. "High Chancellor, I've completed analysis of the combat data from the initial engagement. The humans are using tactics that suggest extensive experience with void combat. Their targeting patterns, their use of kinetic weapons, their deployment of countermeasures, everything indicates they've fought battles like this many times before. Not in space, perhaps, but the principles translate. They know exactly what they're doing. Against each other," Vorn said bitterly. "Ambassador Lee warned us. She said humanity spent centuries fighting wars among themselves. We dismissed it as ancient history. We were wrong." A communication request came through from the Indomitable. Thesic looked at Vorn, who nodded. Captain Kim's face appeared alongside the council members. "High Chancellor Vorn," Kim said. "Admiral Thesic, thank you for accepting my call. I believe we need to discuss the current situation." "You planned this," Vorn accused. "You stationed one ship here as bait. You hid the others nearby and waited for us to attack. This was a trap." "No, High Chancellor. This was a demonstration. You demanded that humanity submit to council authority. You threatened our colonies. You sent a fleet to enforce your will. We responded by showing you the reality of the situation. Humanity has 12 warships. Each one is capable of fighting independently against overwhelming numbers. Together they represent more military capability than you're prepared to handle." "You built only 12 ships," Miraan said. "Why? Surely you understood that quantity has its own quality. Why limit yourselves?" Kim's expression softened slightly. "Because we learned from our own history, Counselor. Humanity fought brutal wars before we unified. We learned that having thousands of adequate weapons is less effective than having a few perfect ones. We learned that crew training matters more than hull numbers. We learned that one well-designed, well-maintained, well-operated warship can accomplish what dozens of mediocre vessels cannot. So when we built our military, we built it around that philosophy. 12 ships, each one designed to operate alone if necessary, each one capable of defending our people against any threat, including this one." Vorn's claws scraped against his command chair. "You expect me to believe that 12 ships are enough to defend your entire civilization? I expect you to believe what you've seen today. Admiral Thesic brought 300 ships to New Horizon. One of our vessels destroyed or crippled 42 of them in the first engagement. Now you face all 12. Run the numbers, High Chancellor. Your tactical computers will give you the same projection Admiral Thesic already received. If you attack, you'll lose more than half your fleet. Maybe more. And that's assuming our ships fight exactly the way we did in the first engagement. I assure you, we have other capabilities we haven't demonstrated yet." The bridge of Thesic's flagship remained eerily quiet. Every officer heard the human captain's words and knew they were true. The tactical projections were devastating. Engaging 12 of these vessels in a full battle would result in losses the Council couldn't sustain. They might destroy the human ships eventually, but the cost would cripple the Council fleet for years. "What do you want?" Thorne asked. The anger had drained from his voice, replaced by something that sounded like exhaustion. "Recognition," Kim said simply. "Accept that humanity's colonies are legitimate. Accept that we have the right to exist as an independent civilization. Stop trying to control us. In exchange, we'll share some of our defensive technology. Not weapons, but shields and countermeasures that will help protect Council species from external threats. We don't seek conquest, High Chancellor. We only want to be left alone to build our future, but we're prepared to fight for that right if necessary." Ambassador Lee's image appeared on the screen as well, transmitted from the Council homeworld. "High Chancellor, I'm authorized to offer formal terms. Mutual recognition of territorial claims, non-aggression agreements, technology sharing for defensive purposes only, trade relationships under fair terms, everything the Council claims to stand for. All we ask is that you treat humanity as equals instead of children who need supervision." Thorne looked at Admiral Thesick. The Admiral spoke carefully. "High Chancellor, I recommend accepting these terms. We demonstrated our superiority with overwhelming numbers and failed. Continuing this confrontation will cost us resources we cannot spare. The humans are offering a peaceful resolution. I strongly suggest we take it." "The Council doesn't negotiate from weakness," Thorne said. "Then negotiate from wisdom," Mira-An interjected. "We made a mistake, High Chancellor. We underestimated humanity because they're young and small. We assumed they would be easy to control. We were wrong. Admitting that mistake and adjusting our approach isn't weakness. It's intelligence. It's exactly what we claim the Council stands for." Long seconds passed. Thorne stared at the tactical display showing the 12 human warships in perfect formation around his fleet. He thought about the 42 ships already lost. He thought about the centuries of Council dominance and authority. He thought about what would happen if word spread that the Council had been forced to retreat from a confrontation with a species barely 200 years old. Then he thought about what would happen if he ordered the attack. The losses would be catastrophic even in victory. Other species would see the Council as weakened. Pirates and rebels would grow bold. The carefully maintained peace would crack. All because his pride couldn't accept that humanity had earned their place through strength. "We will need time to discuss these terms," Thorne said finally. "Admiral Thesick, withdraw the fleet to a neutral position. Captain Kim, you have my word that we will not attack while negotiations proceed. Ambassador Lee, prepare formal documentation of your proposals. The Council will convene to review them." "How long?" Lee asked. 3 days. We'll provide our response within 3 days. Kim nodded. "Acceptable. The human fleet will maintain current positions until we hear from you. We hope this ends peacefully, High Chancellor. War serves no one's interests." The Council chamber looked different 3 days later. The seats were still filled with representatives from hundreds of species, but the atmosphere had changed. The confidence and superiority that usually filled the space had been replaced by something more cautious, more thoughtful. The confrontation at New Horizon had shaken assumptions that had stood for 50,000 years. Ambassador Ji-Wan Lee stood in the center of the chamber floor again. This time she wasn't alone. Holographic projections showed the 12 human battleships still positioned around the Council fleet at New Horizon. A constant reminder that humanity's military strength wasn't just words or bluffs. It was real, proven, and currently aimed at the Council's finest warships. High Chancellor Vorn rose from his seat. His movement seemed slower than before, more deliberate. The past 3 days had aged him. Lee suspected he hadn't slept much, dealing with outraged Council members, reviewing tactical reports, and trying to find a way forward that preserved Council authority without triggering a war they couldn't win. "Ambassador Lee," Vorn began, "the Council has reviewed humanity's proposals. We have analyzed the combat data from New Horizon. We have consulted our military advisors, our technology experts, and our diplomatic corps. What we learned has forced us to reconsider our initial assessment of your species." He paused, clearly uncomfortable with what he was about to say. "Humanity is not what we believed. Your civilization is young, yes, but your capabilities are formidable. You approached military development from a unique perspective, informed by your history of internal conflict. The result is a small fleet with capabilities that rival or exceed our own despite our technological advantage in most other areas." Murmurs rolled through the chamber. Some sounded approving. Others clearly disagreed with Vorn's assessment. Lee remained silent, letting him continue. The Council faces a choice, Vorn continued. We can insist on our original demands and risk a conflict that will cost thousands of lives and hundreds of ships. Or we can recognize that humanity has earned, through demonstration of strength, the right to exist as an independent civilization. The Council was founded on principles of cooperation and mutual respect. Perhaps it's time we apply those principles to humanity as well. He gestured, and a holographic document appeared above the chamber floor. Lee recognized it as the treaty proposal she had submitted. The Council accepts humanity's terms with minor modifications. We will recognize human colonies as legitimate sovereign territory. We will cease all claims to worlds currently inhabited by your people. In exchange, humanity will share defensive technology to help protect Council species from external threats. Both parties will establish diplomatic relations and agree to non-aggression pacts. The modifications? Lee asked. We require that humanity agree not to expand into additional Council-claimed territory without negotiation. We require regular diplomatic communication to prevent future misunderstandings. And we require that the defensive technology transfers include full documentation and training support. The Council will not accept partial measures. Lee had expected these terms. They were reasonable, actually. The Council needed something to show their members that they hadn't simply surrendered. These modifications gave them that without compromising humanity's core interests. I accept these modifications on behalf of humanity, Lee said. We never intended to claim Council territory anyway. Our expansion has always focused on uninhabited worlds. Regular diplomatic communication serves everyone's interests, and we're happy to provide complete documentation for any defensive systems we share. We want those systems to work properly. Vorn nodded. Then we have an agreement. The treaty will be formalized and signed within 1 week. Ambassador, humanity is hereby recognized as a sovereign civilization with all rights and privileges that entails. Welcome to the galactic community. The chamber erupted in discussion. Most species seemed relieved that war had been avoided. A few looked angry that the Council had backed down, but none could argue with the basic logic. Humanity had proven they could defend themselves. Forcing the issue would cost more than anyone wanted to pay. Counselor Mira-On approached Lee after the formal session ended. You knew they would accept, the avian diplomat said. You were never worried. I was worried, Lee admitted. There's always a chance that pride or fear will override common sense. But I believe the Council was fundamentally reasonable. You've maintained peace for 50,000 years. That doesn't happen without wisdom and flexibility. I trusted that you would make the right choice when confronted with facts. Those facts came in a very aggressive package. 42 destroyed or crippled ships, hundreds of casualties, the Council fleet surrounded by your warships. That's quite a negotiating position. We don't negotiate from weakness, Lee said quietly. Humanity learned that lesson over centuries of hard experience. You don't get peace by asking nicely. You get peace by being strong enough that attacking you costs more than leaving you alone. That's what we showed the Council. Not that we wanted war, but that we could survive it. Once you knew that, once you understood the real cost of trying to force us into submission, negotiation became possible. Your Captain Kim could have destroyed more ships. He showed restraint. Of course he did. Captain Kim is a professional military officer. He doesn't kill for pleasure or demonstration. He killed exactly as many Council personnel as necessary to prove our point. No more, no less. That restraint is also a message. We're dangerous, but we're not mindless. We know when to fight and when to stop. Mira-On's feathers ruffled. I think the Council learned more about humanity in 3 days than in the previous 50 years of contact. We're going to be much more careful in the future. Good, Lee said. Careful is better than arrogant. Careful means fewer misunderstandings, fewer conflicts, more productive relationships. That's what humanity wants. Back at New Horizon, the 12 human battleships prepared to depart. The Council fleet had already withdrawn to a safe distance, no longer attempting any kind of blockade. Captain Daewon Kim stood on the Indomitable's bridge, watching the tactical displays as his fellow captains reported ready status. Captain, Commander Bora Choi said, Ambassador Lee is on the comm from the Council homeworld. She says the treaty has been accepted. We won. We didn't win, Kim corrected gently. We avoided losing. There's a difference. Winning would have required destroying the Council fleet. That would have made enemies we don't need and cost lives on both sides. What we did was demonstrate capability while offering a path to peace. That's not winning. That's diplomacy backed by strength. The crew is calling it a victory anyway, Choi said with a small smile. Let them. They earned it. Lieutenant Yoon, you performed brilliantly at the weapons station. Engineer Park, your systems never faltered under extreme stress. Commander Choi, your tactical analysis was perfect. All of you demonstrated exactly what humanity is capable of when properly trained and equipped. You should be proud. Lieutenant Hana Yoon looked up from her console. Captain, what happens now? Do we go home? Do we stay here? We disperse, Kim said. Back to our assigned patrol zones. The Council knows we have 12 ships now. They know what each ship can do. They'll think very carefully before threatening any human colony again. But we can't keep all 12 vessels in one place. We need to maintain coverage across human space. The Indomitable will remain at New Horizon for another month, just to make sure the treaty implementation goes smoothly. Then we'll rotate to our next assignment. Do you think we'll have to fight them again? Yoon asked. No, Kim said confidently. The Council isn't stupid. They make mistakes sometimes, like underestimating us. But they learn from those mistakes. They learned that humanity is stronger than they believed. They learned that we're willing to fight for our independence. And most importantly, they learned that we're also willing to negotiate fair terms. That combination of strength and reasonableness is what builds lasting peace. They won't forget this lesson. One by one, the other 11 battleships activated their hyperspace drives and vanished. They would return to their patrol routes, watching over human colonies, ready to respond to any threat. The Council would see them occasionally, these powerful vessels moving through space alone, confident in their capability to handle whatever they encountered. Each sighting would remind the Council of what happened at New Horizon. Each reminder would reinforce the lesson. The Indomitable remained in orbit, a silent guardian over New Horizon. Down on the planet's surface, 2 million colonists celebrated. They had been hours away from forced evacuation, their homes and dreams threatened by the overwhelming power of the Galactic Council. Now they were safe. Now they were recognized. Now they could build their future without fear. Commander Choi stood beside Kim, looking at the planet below. We changed everything, didn't we? Before this week, the Council saw humanity as children who needed guidance. Now they see us as equals, maybe even as threats. We gave them perspective, Kim replied. They spent 50,000 years at the top of the galactic hierarchy. They forgot what it's like to face a peer competitor. We reminded them. That's healthy for them, actually. Monopolies breed complacency.